Alright guys, so we had something pretty cool get. Alright guys, check out what we just brought into the shop. A 61 Lincoln. Alright guys, check out what we just brought into the shop. A 62 Lincoln Continental convertible. Part about these that everyone loves, of course, is the rear doors. Look how cool that is. And the reason this thing's in our shop is it's got a power steering issue. Now these things have a very unnecessarily complex power steering system. It actually feeds the windshield wipers, and the pump itself is not belt driven but crankshaft driven. If we look down in here, you can actually see this long thing. That's the reservoir, and it feeds into that, pretty much where that blue pulley is. Now we're gonna take a look from underneath the car, give you guys a little bit of a better angle. That blue piece is the power steering pump, and it's bolted to the front of the motor, and it is covered in fluid. We're gonna be trying to remove that pump today. Let's see how this goes. Wasn't able to film me actually removing the pump because I needed both my hands, but here it is. Pretty much had to remove the dowel from the crank to slide it past it, and yeah, there it is. It bolts on right to the front of the motor. Now take this sucker apart and see why there's so many leaks. Now that we have the pump out of the Continental, it's time to see why she's leaking. Looks like somebody's already done seals on the front and back, but it seems to be seeping right through here. And from some things that I've looked up, I think that there is just a giant O-ring in there, but we'll see. Don't really need to break it down any further than this, because through the things that I've looked up online, this surface right here should be completely smooth, and it is chewed all to hell, along with all of these cogs. And also there is a brass bushing inside of here, and you can see it's pretty much all eaten up. I mean, it's completely worn through there. You can get a little bit of, you can lightly see that it used to be kind of brass, and it is worn out. And then also the other thing, pull this out, you can see this surface. I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but you can see that it's chewed up there, along with this shaft, which is not supposed to have any lines in it. Also, let me see if I can get a little bit better angle. You can see where these little pins have been eating away at the surface there, and now none of this is going to make a seal. This pump is no longer good and cannot be rebuilt. So while we're waiting on the pump for this beast of a car, I went ahead and removed the reservoir. It's just mounted by 2 bolts. And I was going to go ahead and check the filter condition, and when I opened it up, there is no filter in there. So now we gotta order a filter. Alright, so it's probably been a few weeks, and luckily Vanna was able to find a company that does refurbish the power steering pump for this guy. So yeah, got that done. Part of me really wants to take it apart to see how they fixed it, but don't want to void the warranty or anything like that. So we are going to be going ahead and installing this guy. First thing is we're going to be putting in these little rubber bushings, or mounts if you want to call them, and then we're going to throw it on the crank. Next up, we got the crank pulley, bolt, and the Woodruff key. Now, the Woodruff key for the crank is on the opposite, or for the pulley is on the opposite side of the crank than the Woodruff key for the power steering pump that we just installed. So that means it's going to be on the top. Alright, so now we're going to be setting up and installing our reservoir tank. Now I am going to leave that bolt a little loose, because once I mount this, I want to make sure that the stem clears everything, because I don't remember the orientation. So I'm going to mount it, then I'm going to snug that little nut down. We also got ourselves a new piece of hose to connect the reservoir to the pump. Now I had to take the oil filter off to give it enough room so I could bend that hose and get it on there. Alright, and now we're gonna hook up the high pressure line. And now before we go bolting the fan on, I'm gonna head and throw the belts on because it's gonna be a little bit easier. And now we're going to install the fan, and then we're going to tighten up the belts. The reason we're doing it in that order is because I want to leave the belts loose on the water pump. That way I can move it around and get to those bolts a little easier. Alright, so I just finished tightening up the alternator, or the using the alternator to tighten up the belts. And yeah, we're almost ready to go. Now to flush the system, what I saw a guy recommend is to undo this return line that comes off of the windshield wiper motor. But what I'm gonna do is just leave the return line off of the reservoir and plumb it into a little drain can and put a little rubber nipple on the reservoir side. That way I don't have fluid pumping out, and that's the way I'm gonna purge the system. Alright, so it's time to try to start her up. I got fluid in a funnel there, and lovely wife ready to start the car. See what happens.
Nothing.
Lovely wife turned the key and nothing happened. Relay went off that somebody's wired into the box, but the starter still didn't get power, and it's not a typical starter solenoid that you'd see on classic cars. If you want to see, from what I could tell, everything runs into this giant box down here, and I don't feel like looking at all that for right now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna jump the starter off the battery, and hopefully that'll get it running, and I can kind of bleed the system. Louise. Managed to fix the ignition issue, and once we got that going, while the car was up on jack stands, lovely wife rolled the wheel back and forth to purge the system of any air, and now it's time for the maiden voyage.
Okay, so the Lincoln is all buttoned up and ready to go. We're about to take it up the street on its first drive in, as far as I know, many years. Justin, we hope you love it. We love you. You deserve it. This is a beautiful car, and I hope it brings you a lifetime of happiness. See you soon. Oh my god, this is so much car. The Thunderbird is a lot of car, but this is a lot of car. Oh, I'm scared.
Go for a putt.
Sure, that was terrifying.
So, as usual, Hubert and I forgot to film any sort of ending to our videos. We are always kind of caught up in the moment of like doing the work that we just ended. So, after this video, the car did come back for some carburetor work, and as of right now, it's running much better than it did. So, thanks for watching, and see you soon.